May we have a moment of silence. May we have a moment of sigh. Never again will we see that screen. Oh, what's up, everybody? Aloha! Miamugabugaibe! Ahahaha! Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DynamiteGizmo podcast, everyone. Episode 280? Wow, this is loud. I don't know about you guys, but this is really loud for me. I'm going to turn that schneikens down a bit. Okay. Here's today's card. It's tradition around here to show you the card, but it's not tradition to show you what's on the card. But you'll find out anyway, because we'll talk about it. And I don't even have a card for this week, because guess what? There isn't any UFC for the next 6 weeks, starting this week. Are you fucking prepared? Are you ready for the onslaught of darkness? Because I'm not. So what is it we have to talk about this week? Well, there isn't a whole lot. We can talk about Flyweight. We can talk about Steven Asplund getting a great start to his UFC career. We're going to talk about Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. We're going to talk about, maybe we'll just barely touch on the Misfits fight this weekend, with headlined by Andrew Tate and Chase Damore. And I have made a decision. December 22nd, Monday, December 22nd, I will be releasing my year-end special. It'll be a wrap-up of the year. We will have a discussion about the channel and how it's grown. We will have a discussion about the things that went on throughout UFC and UFC-related things this year and the best moments. We'll have a Maple lightning round. Y'all remember Maple? She makes an appearance every now and then. And to end off the year-end special, we will do the Gizzies, the Gizzy Awards, the annual Gizzy Awards, the unofficial award show where I hand out unofficial awards to UFC fighters and UFC-related things and events. Kind of like an Emmy or an Oscar, but it's called a Gizzy. So that'll be fun. This will be the first year that I've ever done that, and I've been wanting to do it. I wanted to do it last year, but I wasn't prepared enough and all that stuff. So this will be the first year, and it'll be an annual thing. Every goddamn motherfucking year. Are you ready for that? I don't think you are, Gregory. So why don't we just jump in to the first segment of the day? Because we don't have a whole lot to talk about, my guy. We don't have anything, really. And I don't know what the fuck I'm going to talk about for the next 6 weeks. I'm sure there'll be some sort of announcement or news about what's going on in the UFC. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. We'll find out. There'll be something. All right, or maybe I'll talk about the Arman Tsarukyan wrestling match or something like that. I don't know. But since we did have a UFC event last weekend, which was the final one of the year, the final one on ESPN, we are now heading into the new year on Paramount. Unless you're Canadian, then you're fucked. If you're Canadian, you still have to pay for pay-per-views. We're still getting screwed in the fucking ass. But that's okay. I'll wait. Okay? I'll wait. They say it's about 2 more years for Canadians, and then we'll finally be able to jump on the Paramount deal. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyway, let's talk about Flyweight, because there was an interesting fight card that happened this past weekend. Royval and Manel Kape headlined that event. And there are moments in UFC where over the course of one or two events, everything in a division changes. All of a sudden, multiple guys have legitimate opportunities to rise. And that's exactly what's happening right now at Flyweight. Last week, we saw Joshua Van claim the belt from Alexandre Pantoja. And that same week, Tatsuro Taira picked up another big win. And just before that, Kyoji Horiguchi had a major win of his own, with his debut back into the UFC after his long and treacherous veteran of a career. And then this weekend, as I said, we had Manel Kape versus Brendan Royval. So now you look at the division and there are options everywhere. But as New York Rick put it, there's one big monkey wrench in the mix, and that wrench is Alexandre Pantoja. Because let's be honest here, 100%, Pantoja deserves the next title shot over anybody else that I mentioned. The problem is we're at a standstill until his arm is fully recovered. And the question becomes, do we just wait? Or do we keep the division moving in the meantime? I don't think there's enough time to simply just wait. So when you look at the current landscape, the clean answer is that Manel Kape should get the next shot. He just beat Royval. That puts him at number 2, I think, because I haven't even checked the UFC rankings. They were updated yesterday, but because there's no fucking UFC news, nobody's talking about it. Let's see. Okay, Manel Kape. Yep, he rose up 4 spots. He's at number 2 rank. Okay. But now things get complicated. Because the UFC is reportedly going to Japan in either April or May. And if that's the case, Tatsuro fits perfectly into a title fight on that card. Joshua Van has already said he doesn't want to do that. His stance is that he is the champion and the contender needs to come to him. And I get that, but let's be real here, Joshua Van. You're 24 years old, you're still fresh in the sport, and you won the belt off of a freak accident. Now, it's not undeserving by any sense of the word, but if the UFC is going to Japan, it makes all the sense in the world to put you against Tatsuro Taira for the title. So then the next question becomes, what do we do with Horiguchi? Do we put Horiguchi against Manel Kape in a title eliminator on that same card because of the fact that Horiguchi is Japanese and he's the next, he could be potentially one of the next contenders? That feels a little unfair to Kape, though. But the way the UFC has been organizing fights lately, it's absolutely something they could do. And this is where Kape's story gets a little interesting when we really dive deep into Kape himself. Because there are 2 crazy things about Manel Kape's UFC career that people don't talk enough about. First, out of his 10 fights in the UFC, he's only lost 3 times. His first 2 losses came back-to-back when he first signed with the UFC, and his very first loss in the UFC was to Alexandre Pantoja in his debut. After that, he lost a split decision to Matthias Nicolau. Then he went on a 4-fight win streak before losing again to Muhammad Mokaev, which is a whole separate discussion about whether or not Mokaev needs to come back into the UFC at some point. But let's bring this back to Japan. One of the reasons Kape might get brushed over is because we've got both Horiguchi and Tatsuro in the mix. Actual Japanese contenders going to Japan. But what a lot of people forget is that Manel Kape has a deep history in Japan as well. Manel Kape used to fight in Rizin. Not only is Rizin Japan's biggest MMA organization, it's one of the biggest in the world. And Kape didn't just fight there, he became the champion there. What's wild is that Kape's first loss in Rizin was actually to Kyoji Horiguchi. And immediately after that, he lost to Kai Asakura, who is also now in the UFC. And Kai's UFC debut was also against Alexander Pantoja, but it was for the title, and he came up short. Now, Kape continued his run in Rizin, picked up more experience, and then in December of 2019, he fought Kai Asakura again. This time it was for the vacant flyweight title, and that time Kape won, becoming the Rizin flyweight champion. He then vacated the title to come to the UFC, and we already know how that story came about and what happened. Now, Horiguchi himself has also fought Kai Asakura multiple times in Rizin, including taking the title from him at one point. So when you look at the history between Kai Asakura, Kyoji Horiguchi, and Manel Kape, there's a deep Japanese MMA storyline there that honestly outshines Tatsuro, at least from a historical perspective. Now, obviously, Kai is on a 2-fight losing streak in the UFC, so he's no part in the conversation of going for the title. But Manel Kape is the current number 2 contender, a former Rizin champion, and he has history with 3 of the biggest Japanese names connected to the UFC flyweight division. Because of that, there's a real chance that Kape actually does get the next title shot in Japan. And initially, I thought maybe you do Tatsuro versus Horiguchi in the co-main event as a title eliminator. That makes sense on paper, and it tells a clean story. But now that I say that out loud, I don't think it works. I don't think it's smart to put Japan against Japan on a card like that in Japan. I don't think it's smart to put a Japanese contender against a Japanese contender in Japan. So what do we do instead? Maybe the answer is Tatsuro versus Van for the title, and then Horiguchi versus Manel Kape in a co-main event. They're going to Japan, and who knows when they'll ever be back. You need all these guys on the card. Tatsuro is ranked number 3 and nearly undefeated in the UFC. That matchup makes sense. And now there's an opportunity for both Japanese contenders to get their wins in their home country. I wouldn't be surprised if they even throw Kai Asakura somewhere on that main card as well. I mean, why wouldn't they? One last thing that needs to be mentioned. This is a fight night, okay? Remember, I'm talking about titles here. This is a fight night. Now, normally you don't see title fights on fight nights ever. But remember, you got to consider this, okay? The UFC is now with Paramount, okay? So there's no more pay-per-views. Technically, if you're in Canada, you still have to pay the pay-per-view price. But, you know, the UFC is signed to Paramount, so they don't have pay-per-views anymore. So there is no longer an incentive to save all the title fights strictly for numbered events. There was a time when title fights happened on fight nights back in the day, and we might be heading back in that direction. So what do you guys think? Is this good matchmaking, or am I completely missing something here? Does this actually make sense? And who else on the UFC roster could realistically headline a Japanese card? You gotta let me know, dude. You can't just sit there and talk shit about my take without saying your take. I need to know what you think, my guy. Come on. You know what else I need? I need a Tatsuro Taira. Oh shit. I need a Tatsuro Taira sound clip, sound bite. I got all kinds of them.
Never ever believe yourself and give up.
But if I had I am happy, thank you. That would fit nicely in here now, wouldn't it? It's an absolute blizzard outside today. An absolute miserable fucking blizzard outside. I live in Canada. And lots and lots of shoveling I just did. Heavy, thick, wet, dense snow. And it's cold and it's windy, but that's okay. We get that every year. It makes you appreciate the spring and summer that much more, and even the fall. You battle through it, and then you come out on the other side feeling like $1,100,000.
My balls was hot.
Thank you, Derek Lewis. Now we're going to have to get into segment number 2, ladies and gentlemen. We're only 15 minutes in, and we're already at segment number 2. This might be a shorter episode, but that's okay, because we're going to get shorter episodes for the next 6 weeks. I hope you're ready for that. So we're going to have to talk about Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. I have no choice. Normally, I don't talk about anything outside of UFC-related content. But guess what? We're heading into 6 weeks of darkness, as I said. So I don't have a choice. We have to talk about Jake Paul. And honestly, I'm not even that disgruntled about it because I actually think this one might be worth talking about. If you somehow don't know by now, Jake Paul is boxing Anthony Joshua, a multi-time heavyweight boxing champion and a Olympic gold medalist champion boxer. I don't know if there's gold medals for boxing, but he was in the Olympics and he boxed. Okay, I don't know nearly as much about boxing as I do the UFC, so excuse me if I get something wrong. All I can say is he is a legitimate, elite level heavyweight boxer. A man who just proved that Francis Ngannou is not as big and scary as everyone thought, knocking him out cold, face down to the canvas in round 2 of a 10-round fight. Jake Paul has had a decent number of boxing matches at this point, and in every single one of them, people discredit him. He fights smaller guys, he fights retired guys, he fights older guys. The names are big, but they all fit those categories. But this time, it's a little different. This is the first fight Jake Paul has taken where you genuinely cannot say that he is not that you can't discredit him for this fight. This is a legitimate boxing fight. This is the fight everyone was waiting for. This was what people were waiting for Jake Paul to do. Anthony Joshua is still active, still in his prime. And again, a legitimate high-level heavyweight boxer. There is no angle here where you can say Jake stacked the deck in his favor. And yet, something about this doesn't sit well with me. Because Jake Paul was originally supposed to fight Gervonta Davis, who was also an elite boxer, completely undefeated, multi-time defending champion, and absolutely in his prime. But the thing is, Gervonta Davis fights at 130 pounds. That fight was immediately criticized because, once again, even though there was no trickery involved, the size advantage heavily favored Jake, like multiple weight classes apart from one another. Now keep that in mind, because when that fight fell apart, because that was originally what was supposed to be this Friday, Jake immediately pivoted to guys like Francis Ngannou and Nate Diaz and Anthony Joshua. And specifically, Francis Ngannou and Anthony Joshua are two massive heavyweight athletes. Monsters. Guys with decades more experience than Jake, and who are still completely actively competing. So my question is this: why was Jake so quick to completely flip the script? He went from fighting a guy who was significantly smaller than him, to willingly chasing some of the biggest, most dangerous heavyweights on the goddamn planet. And not only that, but he's insanely confident that he's going to dominate Anthony Joshua. If you follow Jake's career from the start, you know one thing. Jake does not take fights unless he believes he can win. That's not an insult. That's just a fact based on how he's built his resume. So again, why the sudden confidence? Why the immediate switch from Davis to Joshua? What does Jake know that we don't? Because on paper, this should end only one way. Anthony Joshua knocking Jake Paul out inside of 2 rounds. I've got a quick clip to show you. I've got a clip to show you. You're a fucking hoe. Okay.
No fear, because I have faith in God putting me into this moment for a reason.
You see with Jake, what I learned about Jake is someone where I got to beat him mentally because he's a mental person. This is my observation. A lot of what Jake's preparation is based around is not only the physical aspects of training, but the way he thinks, meditation, breath work. If I can break his soul and I can break his mentality, then I've broken Jake. This is why it's going to be an interesting fight, because I just don't look at it from a physical standpoint. I know the person that's in front of me, and I know that I got to break it. That's what I said, I got to take his soul. It's not just physical, I got to take your soul in the ring.
Only person that can do that is God.
I knew he was going to say that.
Is he fucking with your brain?
No, I don't know. That's what I was gonna ask, is how do you plan on doing that? Like, when is it gonna start? When are you gonna start taking it?
I've just seen in fights when I can see someone's, let's call it energy, frequency leaving their body. And that's what my goal is to do the same to you. You have that instinct. You can see it. When you're fighting, you can just see a small glimmer of someone that's just about to start fading. And then you just keep exploiting that until some people give up, some people get knocked out. I want to break him down spiritually and mentally.
Now,
yeah, except that it's funny because the pressure's on you. And like when I win the first round and the second round, and I think it's going to be you that starts to crumble because all the pressure's on you. I'm fighting free. There's no weight on my shoulders. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to prove anything. You have so much to prove. I already took over this whole game, did everything I want. I'm playing on house money, so I think it's gonna be you that starts to be like, oh fuck it, one round, two round, three round, and then
I live up to the expectation of what people have.
I believe you're ready, yeah, but I'm just thinking.
Bring it on.
Okay.
Bring it on. It's just me and you. It's only Jake Paul's name that gets mentioned, not your coaches. None of my coaches, just me. So I'm not worried about my dad there, my mum there, my cousin, my auntie, my uncle. Oh, they can all stay at home. I'm there to work.
Do you think you're gonna knock him out?
I know it, yeah. It's already written.
Where?
In the history books, brother. It's destiny.
In yours, not mine.
No, it is. You'll see. I don't need to go into detail, brother.
That doesn't cross my mind.
It's already written.
It doesn't cross my mind.
I'm certain of it.
It doesn't cross my mind.
I'm certain of it. There's only one God, and God wrote it, so
it doesn't cross my mind.
It's in your book too, whether you like it or not.
We'll see.
The final chapter.
What the fuck? God damn. How about, like, not just automatically play a video right after that? I'm trying to do something here, huh? I'm trying to film a fucking poop cast, motherfucker. I can't believe it did that to me. Now, Anthony Joshua is 28-4 and coming off of a loss. And yes, that is one of the only saving graces here. Joshua has lost before. 2 of those losses came back-to-back against Alexander Usyk, who was arguably one of the greatest heavyweight boxers of all time. Now, he lost the title to Andy Ruiz Jr., then immediately turned around winning it back from him. And finally, his most recent loss and most recent fight was Daniel Dubois. So yes, Anthony is capable of losing, but that still does not make me believe Jake Paul has a real chance. Interview after interview from current boxers, former boxers, UFC fighters, analysts, journalists, all seem to land on the same conclusion. Jake cannot possibly win this fight. And honestly, how could he? If Jake goes out there and loses to Anthony Joshua, then fine. Nothing fishy, everything checks out. That's the way it should have been. But if this fight goes the distance and Jake wins by decision, or worse, if Jake wins by knockout, what are we supposed to think? Is Jake really that good? I mean, there's no way. I won't believe it. I don't care. But at the same time, you kind of have to believe it, because this is the test. This is the fight that proves his skill. What am I supposed to do? Just keep saying every single win from here on out is manufactured? I'm always curious going into Jake's fights. How is this going to play out? When it came to Mike Tyson, like everyone else, we all wanted Tyson to knock him out, but anyone with even a basic understanding of combat sports knew that that wasn't happening. Mike Tyson was 58 years old and hadn't had a win since 2003. You can't be the greatest fighter forever. Age hits fast in combat sports. And that fight went exactly how it was expected, exactly how I expected. Full distance, light sparring, Jake won by decision. So when Jake fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. after the Mike Tyson fight, there was a concern that this trend of light sparring decision wins would continue. That it would just be another safe, controlled session just to simply get the win and simply get the paycheck and the eyeballs. But it wasn't exactly that. It was a decision, yes, but it wasn't light sparring. They looked pretty decently legit in there. Jake won, and it felt like a real fight. And that leads to the uncomfortable question. Is there a chance fighters simply get paid enough to make sure they don't go all out on Jake? I'm not saying this is the truth or the reality of what's happening, or for sure. This is all speculation. This is all alleged speculation. I don't like thinking that way, but it's not like it's impossible. And if there ever were to be someone who could pull something like that off, it would be a former Disney kid turned YouTuber with unlimited money who didn't start boxing until his 20s. A guy who started his own boxing promotion, only fights within that promotion, and handpicks opponents who look good on his record while becoming exponentially wealthier in the process. A man who built an empire off marketing himself way before boxing was ever even a part of the plan. Now let me be clear, I'm not saying that's what's happening. Jake Paul does train hard. He has access to elite coaching and training. There is a chance he's better than we all think. Or maybe that's just all part of the performance. Not saying that's the case. Again, I'm not saying that's the case. Oh, I just fucking closed all my fucking notes. Closed them all. Great. But what I will say is this. One way or another, questions are going to be answered, or not, this Friday. And it's on Netflix. So tune into Netflix and figure out what time it is, because it's different for everybody. For me, it's like 6 p.m., I think. That's when the main card starts. So let me ask you, if this fight goes the distance or Jake wins by knockout, does that, or sorry, forget the knockout. If this fight goes the distance and Jake wins that way, no, you know what? If the fight goes the distance, or okay, if the fight goes the distance and Jake Paul wins that way, or if Jake Paul gets the knockout and wins that way too, or TKO, whatever, does that prove that Jake Paul is legit, or does it raise even more red flags? You got to let me know. Please, for the love of God, let me know. Okay? Now, we'll go over some other little things here, because there was a little bit of other news, I think. Okay, so Ilia Topuria, I'm not going to talk about. Ilia Topuria is going through some shit. He's getting accused of abuse by his wife, but he came out and said it first with his statement before anything else came out first. But there's still no proof of anything at all. He just came out and got it out in the news before anyone else, which is pretty smart. And usually if someone's willing to do that, they're probably telling the truth. Or maybe not. But Bryce Mitchell seems to think he's completely lying. And Bryce is really calling out Ilia Topuria, talking a lot of shit to him. Now, I would agree with all the shit that Bryce had said if there was actual proof. There's no proof yet, Bryce. Like, you're jumping the gun here, motherfucker. And I'm not going to show what Bryce Mitchell had to say because it really doesn't fucking matter. And we don't really have much to talk. Maybe I will show it. Nah, you just go to Bryce's Instagram. You can see it. Then there was also this, which is slightly concerning, but not exactly. Alex Pereira posted a picture of him and Dana White, and it says, "Looks like the White House is a no-go." That doesn't mean anything. That could mean it's a no-go for him. But we still don't know anything. So that might just be him fucking us, teasing us a little bit, you know? Just being like, I'm not going to be there. But then he actually is there. I don't know. Shit like that happens all the time in MMA. I wouldn't be disappointed if he wasn't there, because if he wasn't there, I'm sure they'd have something else lined up. But I can't imagine him not being there. But then you also got to think, well, if he is there, the only guy for him to fight that would make sense would be John Jones. But then it's like, okay, or Tom Aspinall. But maybe Dana had a discussion with Alex and he said, Alex, we're not bringing John Jones back. I don't give a shit. How do you feel about Tom Aspinall? And then Alex Pereira's like, nah, I'm good. I don't know. I don't think he would say that, though, but I don't know. But the way he posted that, the fact that he showed a picture of him and Dana White and him receiving the belt from Dana White, and then all it says is, looks like the UFC White House is a no-go, all caps. There's a lot of ways you could look into that. It's the way he posted it, it made it seem like he's upset with Dana about something. But I don't know. One other final thing I need to mention, because I am so fucking hungry and I have to go in a snowstorm to pick up food, because I have no food here. I do, but by this point it's too late to cook anything. And Wednesdays are the day that I take off to record my podcast, and then, you know, I spend a lot of time editing afterwards, and then I got... Why am I telling you my fucking life routine, dude? It doesn't matter. But we'll end off this quicker episode, this 30-minute podcast, with this video that Carlos Prates posted the other day. Because he's trying to build hype. He's in the welterweight division, and he's rising up in those ranks. And who is the title holder of the welterweight division as we speak? Say it with me, ladies and gentlemen. Islam Makhachev. Okay, you know the song, I gotta mute it, but the Nutella cake, dude. Nutella cake. Yeah, if you don't know what he's referencing here, he's got the Dagestan hat on, okay? So when he fought on, the same card that Islam got his second title, leading up to the fights during, the week, during the before the weigh-ins and whatnot, Islam had crossed paths with Carlos. I don't know where it was, but Carlos was eating Nutella cake. I guess that. And Islam thought it was crazy that during the week of the weight cuts, Carlos was eating Nutella cake. But he was, and then it became a meme because Islam got interviewed and he said that. And so this is Carlos's, little, just a light jab, a little poke at Islam, being like, hey, man, I'm coming next. I'm going to be right around the corner for that belt. If he ever does fight Islam, he's not winning. I can guarantee that's not, unless there's a freak accident, he's not winning. There's no world where I could see Carlos Prates beating Islam Makhachev. But hey, crazier things have happened. I'd say the odds are strongly in favor of Islam, but, there is a chance that Carlos could fucking knock him out, but I highly, highly doubt it. Because that's all he would have. There's no way he'd be able to grapple with Islam. There's no fucking way. But anyway. That's really all I got, dude. Remember, this Monday, December 22nd, will be the year-end special of the DynamiteGizmo podcast. We will have lots of stuff to go over, and then the big part of the episode is the final segment, which will be the Gizzy Awards, where I hand out unofficial awards to fighters and fight moments and fight cards of everything that I thought was the best of the year. It'll be a fun little jolly old time. Christmas themed. And grab a beverage and sit down and relax. Anyway, that's it for this episode of the DynamiteGizmo podcast. It was a quicker one. And there probably won't be one during the week of Christmas, because what's the point? Anyway, I hope you liked it. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. Please, for the love of God, do it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.